Hello, Stitchers. Welcome to Stitch Please, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. I'm your host, Lisa Woolfork. I'm a fourth-generation sewing enthusiast with more than 20 years of sewing experience. I am looking forward to today's conversation, so sit back, relax, and get ready to get your stitch together. Hey friends, hey, and welcome to another great episode of the Stitch Please podcast. And as I say every week, this is a very special episode. In today's episode, we're going to talk about getting lost and found in Los Angeles, the fabric frenzy that I had when I met up with someone super amazing, and my own elastic quest as Draws Vader. Yes, a friend has called me Draws Vader because of my relentless commitment to making underwear, which has been my jam, I must say, and I am loving that for me. But to begin, let me tell you about LA's fashion district and what it meant to approach it in 24 hours, just historically speaking, as well as practically speaking. LA's fashion district is divided into quadrants. It is huge. It covers about 107 blocks. That is a lot of space. LA's fashion district is huge. It covers about 107 blocks, and it's divided into quadrant. Each area specializes in specific items. Menswear is along Main Street, Los Angeles Street, and Santee Streets. Women's fashion is on the blocks of 7th and 8th near Santee Alley. Kids' clothes are along 12th and Pico between Maple and San Pedro. Accessories and athletic apparel is found on Main and Los Angeles between 11th and 16th. And those of us who want to find like the fabric, you can find that between 8th and Olympic. That is where I went. I spent most of my time on Maple in the space between 8th and Olympic. It was such a great time. And because the district is so huge, anytime you go, whether you have 48 hours or 72 hours or a whole week, you will want to plan. Because I knew I had limited time, I chose to focus in one area, and that was elastics. But before we get to my elastic shopping, let's talk a little bit about the trip itself. To begin, I got up at about 3 o'clock in the morning. I got on the road at 4 a.m., was driven to the airport by my loving spouse at 4 o'clock in the morning, and took a, I believe, 6 a.m. flight or 7 a.m. flight directly to LA. When I got there, and I think between getting off of the plane and the airport and getting luggage and all of that, though I just had one small bag, I didn't check any bags, this was time consuming. I think by the time I got ready to hit the street to release myself from the airport, it was closer to maybe 1 o'clock. And beautiful, bright sun. Shout out to my sister for letting me borrow her car. She left her car in a nearby garage and I was able to drive it around. And I was really grateful for that, especially since her car is very comfortable and very nice. And sure, I did spend about 4 hours, not gonna lie, probably maybe 12 hours tapping the screen on the GPS for the car because I thought it was a touchscreen. It wasn't. Nothing happened. Nothing changed. I couldn't figure out how to work it for the longest. But I was driving and I was like, okay, great. I'm in the car. I got the car. I am heading to Long Beach. That's where my producer is. That is where L.A. Finch Fabrics is. And Josie was so kind to invite me down and we had a blast. You can see we did an Instagram live from the store and I had a wonderful time talking with her about what it means to build a brick and mortar business. And you know what else happened, y'all? I was intending to drive to Long Beach. But what had happened was, as I said before, I thought the GPS in my sister's car was a touchscreen, which should give you some indication that I know what I was doing. So come to find out, I thought I was driving to Long Beach. I show up very close to my hotel, which I know is actually in Los Angeles, and that Los Angeles and Long Beach are two different places. So then I have to turn around, leave Los Angeles, then drive south to get to Long Beach, which I do. And it is all hashtag worth it because that is where LA Finch is located. It's also very interesting to note for those of you all who have never been to driven in LA or before, there's a lot of cars there. It's huge. It's a lot of cars. And it's like physics or whatever scientific principle, controls how traffic moves on a car or how traffic is meant to flow does not work there. Because why in the world is something 20 miles away, but also then 58 minutes away? That's what the GPS would do that. I'm like, oh, I'm going here. It's only 20 minutes away. The GPS says 58 minutes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? It's only 20 miles away. The GPS says 78 minutes. And I'm like, what? I said, I'm going to stop talking because the more I talk and the more I'm surprised, the longer it takes. Why does it take 78 minutes to go 20 miles? Why is that? What is it? Is it because it's a lot of cars? Y'all, I don't know. I just couldn't tell you. But that is one of the mysteries this is one of the mysteries that I don't know how to work. I don't know what it means. I don't know how to do it. But that is definitely what I experienced. I did eventually find my way down to LA Finch Fabrics, and boy, am I glad that I did. It was such a nice time. LA Finch Fabrics has an online presence as well as a brick and mortar store, and that's where I was able to go. It was really nice to see a small business doing both, and it seems like it would be extraordinarily difficult. There was a lot of fabric there. I remember seeing some really great cone denims, which I know is really popular among the denim girlies. There's all sorts of sportswear, which I thought was really fun. And y'all, listen, I was minding my own business. And I looked down and this ITY fabric in my favorite colors jumps off the shelf and into my arms. I kid you not. Go watch the Instagram live video. Listen, I'm telling you, you watch it and you watch the tape. Run the tape. Watch the video and see if that fabric did or did not jump into my arms. This was the first fabric I've purchased in 2024. That means I didn't buy any fabric in January, February, March, which if you add it up is about 9 years. So this is a pretty big hiatus. Brava to me. Anywho, another great surprise was when my podcast producer, Crystal, showed up as well. And we also had another great time talking to Josie. And, Crystal was also a witness to see the fabric jump into my arms. I mean, I was minding my own business and I looked over and wham, there it was. And, now it's going to be here at my house very soon because, again, that same wonderful sister who lent me her car is also going to mail a few fabric pieces to me. And that is part of this tips and tricks at the end of the episode. So you're going to want to listen to the end for the tips and tricks. The tips are not going to be like have a sister that lives there that'll let you use her car and mail your stuff. That's not the tip. I mean, if you have that, that's great, but that's not what I'm going to put down. Shout out to Crystal and her fiance, Marissa, for a wonderful dinner at this great restaurant. And when we came into the restaurant, y'all, restaurant in Long Beach, which I had never been to this place before. I think I've only been to Long Beach one time, which was the time I was there. The only time I've been to Long Beach, I think, was this time I'm talking about. So that was fun. First time to Long Beach. And I walked in and there was two sisters sitting at the bar and they were like, hey, I'm a sewist, and waved at me. And I was like, that's awesome. And they knew me from social, or this one lady knew me from socials. And I thought that was so nice. So I wish I had thought to take a picture, but I didn't. But thank you so much for shouting out. That was so nice. And it's just really nice to see people and, that I'm connecting and people connected with me. So that was really fun. The next day, I big Crystal farewell. I drive the 15 miles / 92 minutes back to Los Angeles. It's like, okay, it wasn't 92 minutes, but it was 15 miles. And it took 52 minutes? Why? Anyway, go to sleep, stay at this great hotel right downtown. I was hoping to be able to have some time to do walking distance, which I might have had. But in the interest of time and in the interest of efficiency, I decided to take a Lyft to the different places I was going. And the first place I went was breakfast at this place I love so much called the Original Pantry Cafe. It has this great diner with coffee and y'all, it was so good. They had this grilled sourdough toast and they had these amazing grilled hash brown potatoes with this crunchy top. Next time I go, I'm going to get cheese on my eggs, but it was so delicious. I got a half plate and I couldn't finish it. It was so good. And then I talked to this person who was a realtor there and learned about him and how he was a first generation Mexican American and how he has these different supports for people in the community. And that was kind of fun. Me and my mama, y'all, we ain't never met a stranger, seriously. Anyway, the next step was to accept an invitation from Josie from LA Finch Fabrics to go with her on a fabric buying trip. Y'all, how on earth could I have said no to that? Who was going to say no? When Josie says, hey, you want to meet up so we can go see where I buy the fabric for LA Finch from? I'm going to say, oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. So we went to Rag Finders. It was incredible. 4 floors of fabric. I think I only saw one floor. And even in that one floor, it was more fabric all in one place, so densely concentrated that I have seen before. I've seen a lot of different fabric places, fabric districts. This was a lot of fabric in one place. And it was so much that I couldn't figure out how on earth can you see what you even want. But they have a system. They also have, I think they have different swatch books. They also have the way that it works is that Josie will take a swatch from a piece of fabric that she's interested in and then give that to someone that works there. And that person will retrieve it and measure it out or I'm saying measure it out. They just get the whole bolt because they don't sell to, I don't believe they sell to retail. Oh, wait, Rag Finders is a fabric wholesaler. But they do sell small amounts for students, I believe. It was some special stipulation for retail. Either there was a limit to the volume of buy, either there was a minimum buy, or there was other special circumstances. They seem to offer stipulation for students because we met someone that worked there who was a student at the FIDM, which is the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising that's based in Los Angeles. This person worked there and was able to get fabric from this Rag Finders, I believe, and use for her collections. I had a great time at Rag Finders with Josie, and I don't think I would have had that same opportunity to do so if I didn't have someone with me who was an expert in fabric buying at the wholesale level. So I appreciate and shout out to Josie for giving me that opportunity to get behind the seams. That was a pun, y'all. You saw it. It was punny. To get behind the seams, SEAMS. I want to make sure y'all hear that pun. Y'all gonna get this pun. Shout out to Josie for taking me behind the seams of her business. And she goes to this place twice a week. And that's a great way to keep the fabric selection fresh, which is something that you can notice when you look at the LA Finch website. There's a constant updating of the products there. After our time at Rag Finders, Josie dropped me off near a lot of different elastic stores. I could tell they were elastic stores because you can just look out the window and see, set up right there on the sidewalk or on the curb, elastics just floating in the wind. Dozens upon dozens upon dozens of elastics set up in A-frame racks, stacked, hung, just all over the place. Wherever they could hang them up, that's where the elastic was. And I switched into full Draws Vader mode. Yes, a friend calls me Draws Vader. And actually, I love that for me. Hey friends, hey, I know you're enjoying the audio version of Stitch Please, and thanks so much for listening. But you're missing out on all the great stuff going on behind the scenes. That's why I'm inviting you to join our Black Women Stitch Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, You can see all the video versions of the podcast. Plus, you get some amazing swatch cards. You know how much I love these swatch cards. Look, see how cool these are? Wait, you can't see them because you are not yet on the Patreon. So when you join the Patreon, you'll be able to see this, me showing you these amazing cards. We also have some great perks at the other tiers, like discounts, swag, office hours, and more. Don't be the last sewist in the group now. Head over to patreon.com/blackwomenstitch or click the link in the show notes and become a Patreon supporter today. We truly cannot do this without you. So thank you so much. I started my elastic search, I think around 11 a.m., knowing that my goal was to be in Anaheim around 5 or 6 p.m. Accounting for the utterly absurd traffic, I was giving myself 2 hours to drive the 20 miles I needed to get from one place to the next. That meant that I was going to stop what I was doing and be in my car driving at 4 p.m. That gave me about 6 hours to immerse myself into the vibrant, beautiful, colorful, festive, and incredibly affordable elastic scene in the LA Fashion District. I really do prefer the LA Fashion District to New York City's Garment District. The prices are better, the offerings are fresher, the things you get to see are so different. But I think for me, the combination of price and quality puts LA over New York City. In fact, I sometimes think that the people in New York City are buying their stuff from the folks in LA and marking it up 80,000 level percent. That's what it feels like. Because you go to a shop in New York and it's like, this fold over elastic is $2.75. And then you go to LA and this elastic is $1 or, $2 or $2.50 or $2. But if you pay cash or if you buy more, it's now $1.50. Or if you buy even more, now it's $1. All is to say, this combination of if you buy a lot and if you pay with cash, it worked well for your girl. Your girl did quite well in the acquisitions of elastics. So much so that I decided to do what my friend Dewan does and calculate how much elastic in advance I would need for myself based on which pair I was going to make. For myself, I realized if I'm going to use elastic, like a picot elastic around the waist and the leg holes for a panty, I need 2 yards plus, I think I need 2 yards plus maybe 4 inches. So I need about 2 yards. If I'm just going to use a waistband for myself, that'll be about a little over a yard for myself. And the reason I keep those numbers handy is because it helps me to buy just what I need. So if I bought, for example, 12 yards of picot elastic, I know that I'm going to make myself 6 pair of underwear from it, or that I can get about 6 pair. Oh, another great thing. When I travel, I look for the 2 Fs, food and fabric, and not always in that order. In this case, the order was clearly reversed. Fabric was the main thing, but I got to eat. Y'all, the food down there that is provided by street vendors, by businesses that are set up right alongside some of the elastic places that also sell food like more Mexican style food. Y'all, I had so much fun. I had horchata, a huge one, maybe like a 32-ounce horchata, which is like a rice beverage, sweetened rice beverage. Delicious. I love horchata. I also got a fruit cup, which sounds like something you might get in an elementary school lunch tray, but no. This thing had all fresh fruit, fresh pineapple, fresh watermelon, fresh, I think it was cantaloupe pieces. There was grape tomatoes. There was some cucumbers with salt and pepper. And then there was a Tajin, Tajin, or tahine, Tajin, Tajin, which is like a spice mix, a red pepper spice mix with like a lemon tanginess to it. They sprinkle that on that fruit cup. And I tell you, coconut plus pepper plus a little bit of lemon, fresh coconut, delicious. Oh, that was so good. And these are just some of the snacks that you can get when you're just walking around looking for fabric. Another thing that contributes to the vibe of the LA fabric scene during the time that I was there is the open airness of it all. I love how so many fabrics are outside. I love the outdoorness of it. There are so many fabrics outside. They're set up outside. You can see them in the natural light, which becomes important for both photography as well as when you are going to wear it, like how you think it's going to look versus how it looks inside versus outside. These are all considerations people have when you're thinking about something to make. One disadvantage of displaying fabric outside, however, is sun damage. And I noticed that in some of the pieces I was interested in. One, it showed up in some elastic that I was going to buy. You could tell that it had been it looked it was very, very faded. And it was no problem. I showed the person, or even they would go to pull it out and they would look at it and say, oh, this does not look good. And they would roll past the section with the damage to get to the part that was fresh. Or they would find a new roll. And one person just threw the sun damage stuff in. And I was like, just had to throw it out when I got home. But I'm sure they thought they were doing me a little favor. But yes, so that's just one thing to think about. I want to wrap up this episode with some travel tips, or when you want to bring home souvenirs for sewing. Here's some things that you can do. Decide how you want to bring your fabric home. Having a plan to bring your fabric home makes a big difference. So just to wrap up, I purchased a lot of elastic. I do a lot of sewing. I do a lot of underwear making. I do a lot of underwear making as gifts for other people. Y'all, I was finna sit here and tell you that I got elastic. And y'all, I think I got okay, y'all, fine. I went full Draws Vader on this trip and got about 50 yards of elastic. Now, this is in varying types: Pico elastic, fold over elastic, this beautiful brushed French terry backed elastic, which I had never seen before, some satin binding. I got some great inspired by designer elastics. I got wide fold over elastics. The best thing that unites all the elastics that I purchased, all of them, is that they feel good against the skin. There are ways that I can buy elastic sometime online and don't know how it will feel. Also, it seems as though underwear elastic, lingerie elastics, these types of things are harder to find in person, harder to find in a way that lets you touch them. And I know what I like on my body, and in selecting elastics to make things for other people, I want to keep that same standard. So I purchased 3 fabrics and a lot of elastic, but just 3 fabrics. The first fabric was the fabric that chose me back at LA Finch. And when I was in the fashion district, I also got this gorgeous textured pleated knit fabric. Really neat. It's this novelty pleated knit. It's kind of a coppery color. I think it would be a great caftan. It'd be a wonderful caftan. It will also be a great 2-part romper type suit with a long pair of pants and a crop top. That would be fun. So these are some things I'm considering. I also got this really great felted looking fabric. It's so interesting. It's a knit fabric that has these elements couched on the top of them. And then I thought, okay, well, these yarns or whatever have been stitched on top of this fabric, easy enough. A lot of machine generated fabric can do this. But when you turned it over, it was amazing. It was felted. It looked like a Bob Ross watercolor fuzzy interpretation of the front. It really did. The back looked like a Bob Ross watercolor version of the front, just like fuzzy clouds or fluffy clouds. So I got the rest of that one. So I felt pretty good about it. Here's a few travel tips to think about. One, have a transport plan. Have the first tip, have a transport plan. Will you ship some fabric home? Look online before you go to find a shipping center, a post office, a UPS, or whatever, so that you can find a shipping place near your hotel or near the fashion district itself that you can use to send your fabric back. This is stuff that you can prepare ahead of time. I also had the opportunity to check a bag or check two bags that came with my ticket. So I could have and have done in the past take a giant suitcase and then I put a smaller suitcase inside that and check it. Then when I get at the end of the trip, I can check the smaller bag that was inside the giant bag and fill that big bag with fabric. And that, with between shipping it at about $65 or having a bag you can check for about the same price, you know, you'll have to do the math and see what makes sense for you. The second thing to do, I recommend, is to travel with swatch cards. Now, I'm going to say travel with swatch cards because swatch cards are part of my own sewing practice, and I provide them for Patreon supporters at the Black Woman Stitch Patreon. If you don't have that, you could always take notes. You want to know why you bought what you bought and what you planned to do with it. I bring swatch cards along when I travel for efficiency's sake. It helps me to make space in my mind before this fabric even gets to the house about where it will be and what it will do. So taking notes on what you buy and why can help you when you bring it home and to incorporate it into your stash as something that is an active thing and not just a passive thing that's taking up space. I also did this for the first time, which I was really excited about. Take a picture of your purchase with the business card of the store in the photo. You can do this before you put everything in the bag. But what you'll want is to see what you bought and where you bought it from. I love doing this because there was an elastic that I really liked. I hadn't actually seen it before. So before I left the store, I took a photo of everything that I bought. And then I contacted them later and said, oh, I would love some more of this. Do you have any more? And the person was like, oh, yeah, we do have some more. How much do you want? It might sound like an unnecessary step to take a photo of the things you've purchased with the business card of the store. However, if you would like to replace or replenish anything that you've purchased, having that photo will be useful. These products don't come with SKUs. So you can't look up the product number and tell them, this is what I bought. Having a photo makes it a little easier. And that's what excites me about this particular idea. The last thing I'll say is if you take photos or short videos of your travels or your fabric, that's another way to document your journey. If you are an Apple user, there are ways that you can find the location of a photograph. And so when you're looking for an address or you're not sure where something is, you can locate where you were on a map when you took the picture. And so that gives you a sense of where you were. If you want to tell someone like, I was in this neighborhood, or this is the store, or this was the place that was close to that really good place that, whatevs. It's a good way to keep track. Well, that's it for me, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you've enjoyed today's conversation. We talked about me getting lost, but shout out to my sister for lending me her car and for sending my stuff home. Thank you very much. I will indeed fix your favorite pants. Just put them in the box. It's also one of the things I appreciated about this trip was connecting with local experts. That totally enriches your travel experience. Planning ahead for your fabric shopping will save you time and money, especially if you identify how you want to manage the fabric when you get it. And document your fabric finds. You will probably want to look at them later. Or what if a friend is interested in some of the same stuff you got? You can give her some good direction. What I'm realizing too is that I definitely need more than 24 hours in Los Angeles. So the next time I go, I will include more time for this. But in the absence of that opportunity, I had such a great time, and I would not change a thing about what I did in my 24 hours in the LA Fashion District.
You've been listening to Stitch Please, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. We appreciate you joining us this week and every week for stories that center Black women, girls, and femmes in sewing. We invite you to join the Black Women Stitch Patreon community with giving levels beginning at $5 a month. Your contributions help us bring the Stitch Please podcast to you every week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. And come back next week and we'll help you get your stitch together.